I'm going to become the man that can provide the life and lifestyle.
Are you living the most amazing life and connecting?
We attach so much of our identity as men to our work.
If you're really worried about your health, you need to not only do all these things, but bring awareness to it.
Inside this inherent strength is an inherent weakness.
Having a deeper understanding and connection with that mind-body interface.
I'm doing the things, but am I doing them with intention?
I know you're hurt. This is why you're not alone. You're not different. I can help you.
Men have to feel more.
Anger is a clue. We shift to anger because it feels good.
We've got to do the inner work to heal.
Safe is not good. Safe leaves you just surviving.
Gentlemen, welcome to the Formidable Family Man podcast. I'm your host, Greg Denning. Today, my guest is Victor Robledo. We are going to have an awesome conversation and can go all kinds of places because we have so much in common. Husbands, fathers, businessmen, athletes, travelers. There's a lot here. So I'm excited for our conversation and all these different directions we can go. But Victor, why don't you start us off? Just kind of give us a bit of your background and story, and then we'll dive in from there.
Well, 10 years ago, we've been traveling full time. 10 years ago, Robin and I decided to sell off everything and start full-time travel. And now that is sort of the jump forward. I was born to two immigrants. I'm a first-generation American. I'm here in the United States. I'm an absolutely proud American. And everything I have, I can really thank for this country. Sometimes I joke. I said the only time I would ever root against is if we're playing soccer. I usually root for Mexico. But other than that, the three, I was born and raised just a few, probably 10 miles from the border in Chula Vista. My parents immigrated across the U.S. border. My mom was 11. My dad was 5. They're actually both from Guadalajara, Mexico. Their families are. They did not know each other from when they first came across. They would work like many immigrant families across the border in the day, work, and then come back across. Back and forth every day. As immigrants, they taught us the value of hard work, and this is the place pursuing the American dream. Yeah. They met at San Diego High School and got married and proceeded to have, I'm the oldest of 4 kids. We grew up in a kind of rough area of San Diego. It didn't seem as rough. It always was an interesting thing as you have these moments in your life where you sort of lose that innocence and you realize, oh, we can't play outside. We have to go inside. But because of that and the area sort of changing and the demographics sort of changing, my parents worked really, really hard. Both of them worked full time. That created some challenges for us. I, in many regards, raised my younger siblings, but they sent us to Catholic school. I went Catholic school K through 12, going to an all boys high school as well. And that created some sanctuary from some of the challenges that we had, but not all of them. All of them. So the Catholic school was a bit of refuge, but it still created some challenges. For me, I can point to and why I go to these moments because it's an important part of the backstory and some of the challenges that I faced and that didn't really come out and we started full time. Sexual abuse at the hands of a family babysitter, which was brushed under the rug. Violence in and around the area, knives, guns, being chased, gangs, those sort of things. Those are the big ones aside from really like a money scarcity issue because they work so hard. We were essentially poor in different regards because they needed to make sure we were safe in school. It really made things tight. And that poverty scarcity is what really created a challenge as we started our full-time travel. Believe it or not.
Are you saying that mindset kind of carried with you into your adult life?
Yeah. And what Robin saw, and this is jumping back and forth, so let me know. For some reason, I tend to get so excited about sharing this story because I think a lot of people, my people, deal with some of the same sort of things. And it's not race necessarily. There's plenty of poor people everywhere that don't really realize sometimes this is at play. Have you ever watched Surfwise with Doc Paskowitz? Doc Paskowitz was about a family of eight boys in a camper driving up the coast of California, homeschooling, just traveling. I highly recommend it. And he would go, okay, we're down to our last quarter. How are we going to make something happen? Like, what can we do? And the kids would brainstorm and they'd come up with an idea. And for me, coming from some scarcity, I was having all this negative talk while we were doing it. I felt lots of shame. First off, because I hadn't figured out how to make digital money, right? I had jumped from having a brick and mortar, which I'll get into. And it really rattled me because the concept of not being safe and secure, I know what it's like to things to get tight. And for Robin, it was like literally invigorated her. All right, problem solving. Let's figure it out. And I used to be like, well, I know what this is like. I can kind of tell you how this goes. This is frijoles and arroz and tortillas for the next 3 months.
Yeah. And they get old fast.
So
Man,
they get old fast.
Amazing that she had that kind of growth mindset of embracing challenge and leaning into it, because predominantly women, their greatest need is a sense of security and safety and certainty, which often comes from finances. That's fascinating.
And you know what's fascinating about that is that through all that, I think where she got that is still in my anchor as a man.
Yeah.
I will never fail you. I will never stop. I get emotional with this. You know, there's a few times where we've run out of money trying to do this. And I'd be like, all right, well, I picked up a job at a moving company, or I'm working at Lowe's in the lumber department, lowest of lows. I have pictures of that where we're trying to live this full-time lifestyle. Like, well, we're out. And I haven't been able to grow because I'm too busy. If you're too busy worried about safety and security, it doesn't allow the brain to have that creative, empowered mindset.
Exactly. Yes. And man, I can relate to that, because in our same thing, our wanders, and we went internationally right out of the gates and got down there, and we got to Nicaragua and ran out. But like, we had all kinds of things going, different streams of income, things were well, that was the second time, because it happened the first time in Costa Rica in 2008, when we lost all of our real estate holdings, all of our stock market stuff, everything. And so I can relate to that, and just the weight and the pain and the frustration, and yes, the commitment, like, I will do whatever it takes.
Exactly.
And that ancient quote of, I'll either find a way or I will make one. Like, I had to embrace that and live by that. But man, those tough moments are brutal.
Dark.
Yeah.
It's dark. And, you know, I had a business for 20 years. We owned and operated. I met Robin in college, and we have pictures of her. Today's actually an anniversary, not a wedding anniversary. We have a dating anniversary, because I remember vividly the date I said, will you be my girlfriend? I was 19. She was 17, 31 years today.
Wow,
And we're doing
that's
this.
awesome.
And we have pictures of a high school prom. She was still in high school when I started dating. I was in my first year at San Diego State. And I remember vividly, you know, we started to really do things in a way where it's like, we want a life this way. We're going to do everything the right way. We didn't do any sowing of the oats where we're like traveling the world. So we saw zero. To me, I had seen Disneyland. I had zero camping experience. And here I was living this full-time RV. But when I owned the business in Coronado for 20 years, I literally like took such personal pride. Like, here's the bacon, baby. Here's the bacon. And it was tangible. I could touch it. In the end, we have 5 children. You know what it's like? It's like, you know, there's rules and everything you follow, but there's always going to be someone a little upset, and you're having to like, okay, we're just going to be upset for a little bit because I can't get to it this moment. And because of that, we had to divide and conquer. We did it all together. 97 to 2017, we closed the doors, 20 years. And it was very difficult for me. I hopped on a plane in many ways like you. When we first started our full-time travel, we packed up backpacks with 5 kids and we flew to Norway. And it was the first time I hadn't worked like a full-time gig job since I was 17, 18.
Wow.
And so a vacuum happened. Like, who am I without getting up and going to work?
Exactly. Yeah. It's even an identity process. It's like,
my God,
we attach so much of our identity as men to our work. And if we strip away that, like, what's left? Like, yeah, where's the identity piece? I love that. Keep going.
And the challenge with it for me was, you know, I love my parents. They did the best I could to raise me, but I never have had a relationship with my dad. They're still together. With my dad, he was working as a pipe welder in the shipyards, one of the toughest jobs ever. It's feast or famine. And so I didn't have anyone that I could reach out to. And I just suffered in silence. And I'm like, I got to work this out. I went in within. Okay, the ethic associated with my background in exercise and ethic in sports is like, I will persist, to the point that a few times Robin's like, you're familiar with the Camino de Santiago?
Oh yeah.
She's like, I have the kids. Go figure yourself out.
Yeah.
And I
Wow.
was like,
Okay.
but I
So
had, go ahead.
it was affecting, I just want to point this out. Like, it was clearly affecting your relationships and the whole dynamic. Like, it was affecting the family.
Yes, a lot. And this is why I think I want to share it, because I knew first off, when we came into full timing, I wanted a different life for my children. And I knew at root level how hard it would be for me. But again, coming with a value system, like I can persist and endure more than the average. I've endured abuses. I've endured violence in the home. I've endured alcoholism, things like that. Those are challenges that I've seen and faced. I will endure for my children so they have a different life that doesn't look like copy, paste, copy, paste, copy, paste. But I had no idea how many programs I had running of my childhood that I would have to face. And so that 6 months.
Yes, man. So spot on.
And so,
I want to add a little emphasis here because that's so good. Well, to two pieces. One, giving our children a completely different lifestyle experience. Exposure is one of the greatest things we can do for ourselves or for our kids, and just showing them what's out in the world and giving them a totally different life, a completely different chassis on which to build their lives is priceless. And I'm 100% all about that. I
yeah,
love
I can imagine.
and then the second piece is, well, in order to do that, as a husband, as a father, as a provider, as a protector, man, I got to face all my stuff. I have to work harder on myself than I do on anything else. I've got to do the inner work to make sure I can show up for the outer work. So it's this awesome thing. And I think it's a great thing for husbands and fathers to face. Like, I want to give so much more life to my wife and children. And in order for me to do that, I have to face my own problems, my own weaknesses, whatever it is. Like, for each man, it's different. My own fears, my own insecurities, whatever it is. Like, I just love that connection. I don't even know if I'm articulating it well enough. Like,
No.
I want to give this to my children. I want to provide this opportunity for them. And in order to do that, I have to become a better man.
Yeah, 100%. And I have to say that at the moment, I'm not thinking
Right.
better man. At
Yeah,
one point,
that's a hindsight articulation right there.
that's what I need. It's like, because a lot, when you're in it, it feels like, I told Robin when we were traveling through Europe, I said, this first trip, and now we've been traveling since full time since 2015. Like, I told her, I go, this trip might kill me. There's something going on. I can't point to it. Now, going back to some trauma, I had never actually dealt with any of it. That Robin didn't even know the depths of the things that I experienced, because a good boy does not talk about those things. A good boy does not show emotion. Like, I was the oldest of four, and a good portion of that, my younger siblings were visibly suffering. I was suffering on the inside. But I was coached and said, like, hey, can you keep it together? Can you not? And when I would show emotion or try to, like, hey, I need help, like, hey, like, a good boy isn't upset. And so that was another program, is like, I internalized and pushed them to the depths of my soul. Whereas, like, and then all of a sudden you're standing at a fjord in Norway going, why do I feel so
Coming up.
empty?
Yeah,
All
everything
this coming up.
coming up. Yep. Wow.
And so the most powerful thing that I can tell people, because I think travel and adventure, I'm now to the point where with clients, I go, okay, what's your travel and adventure? And they say, well, I want to get some R&R in Hawaii. Nope.
That doesn't
No,
count.
I need you I need you outside the box. And they go, well, why? Because outside the box is where you uncover that which you are potentially have held down. And then also comes this sense of pride that I can do hard things as men, because I can do hard things. I can do like right now. I can, like, okay, I'm recovering from a couple different little aches and pains. I'm like, okay, I'm going to see if I can squeeze out some total of certain amount of pull-ups in a day. I do nutty kind of things as well as a strength and conditioning coach that I was initially in my 20 years as a brick and mortar. But sometimes we don't lean into the stuff that's hard. We lean into our strengths.
Right.
And to me, an example of this, very stark example of this, is these. I'm great on a bike because I grew up on a bike. It's natural. Jumped like most kids growing up in the '80s. We made janky jumps, and you jump over things, and your parents aren't really there. You're just having some fun. And so when I go downhill bike or climb, I'm like, heck yeah, let's go.
Yeah.
When we rock climb a fair amount and we ski, like I'm only my second season skiing. Like, talk about outside the box. I always tell Robin, like, hey, we always coach 4% outside the box. Like, I'm 50% outside the box when we first start these things.
That's awesome. I love that.
And so
That's
go
such a great way to live, brother.
ahead.
Like just pushing those limits, constantly exposing ourselves to new things, new idea, like just novelty. Try new foods, new places, new activities. For me, it's humbling because it keeps you humble. If I
Yeah.
only do what I'm good at because I'm afraid of sucking before you succeed, right? If I'm afraid of looking like a failure, if I'm afraid of not being good at something, and so I stay in one little thing, it's just I'm limiting myself.
Right.
But if I
Right.
keep pursuing new things, I'm exposing myself and my family to all these new wonderful things that life has to offer. And I'm growing. Like I'm in growth mode. You're in growth mode. When you're leaning into something you're not familiar with, it's uncomfortable, but man, it's the best way to grow and the fastest way to grow.
Yeah. And I think that the last 10 years, my children, they're my idols because they're the mindset that they've been homeschooled their whole life. They're not within the system. They look at things with fresh eyes, and we'll be in situations, which you have, like you're flexing different kinds of muscles when you travel, and their ability to problem solve from a calm state
Yep. Is huge.
is huge. And I look at them, I'm like, right now, I can feel that safety and security program. Like, I am on alert. I went through essentially 6 months in Europe feeling like I was a watchdog waiting for anything to jump at.
Hmm.
I got this. There's five of us in tow. I got a 4-year-old as our youngest. I'm like, man, some of the challenges I faced in those, and just to see them now, I'd be like, hey, calm down. We'll figure this out. I'm like, I still have this alerted nervous system, which kept me safe, right? It kept me safe. One of the things that my wife always comments about is this ability to adapt to a situation and improve likability, which is a wonderful thing. Even in this dialogue, right? We can connect deeply, but it's deeper than just what I'm about to allude to. That chameleon, I go, well, if that guy doesn't like you, or if you can get him to like you, he's not going to stab you in the back. And when you grow up in a rough neighborhood, to know how to blend and make sure you chameleonize. But in there created some challenges for me to always like trying to adapt as opposed to just being me. And so my kids have literally been at the forefront of seeing their dad go doing hard work. And I'm also very aware that they go, you won't see me quit ever,
Beautiful. And
ever.
it's modeling right in front of them, leading from the front of how to work through challenge, how to solve problems, how to grow like a man.
Yeah. Yeah. And I wish I could be at the level where their consciousness, their being, their creative potential. But as I've shared, like, oh yeah, for me, Nicaragua, that's like Tijuana. Like, I know I've been to, we had family that lived there. You know what it's like to smell trash, right? Even when I say that, you probably go, oh yeah, I know
Yeah,
what it's like. And
exactly.
it's so traveling to these places, I knew, like, I always had memories of that. And they created them because for them, they saw that and would see happiness levels off the chart. But they have nothing, because we've been to Nicaragua as well too. And Bali is probably one of the most intense places we've been to show that, because they would be, and they're like running. These kids are 4 years old, 5 years old, no clothes, dirty, and they're still happy, happy, happy. And God, it puts just them seeing that, like, wait a second, how is that possible?
Yeah.
They have nothing. That's another lesson that travel has brought. But in that travel and through this journey, even as little as today, we're reflecting upon the states, the power of wanting and desire. Rob was a spearhead to do this. I knew I I don't really have it. I don't really have the capacity to do this, but I trust you, and I'll work my tail off to make this happen because I think it's valuable. I saw nothing more than a house. Julia, go ahead.
Well, I love how you frame that up. You're like, she wants this. It's
Yep.
her dream. I want to support her. I don't currently have the capacity,
Yep.
but there's this and you probably didn't think like this. I didn't, and you probably didn't articulate till later, but then like, I don't currently have the capacity, but I'm going to cultivate and develop the capacity.
Yeah.
I'm going to be, and this is my commitment. I'm like, I'm going to become the man that can provide the life and lifestyle that my wife and children want and need.
Yeah. 100%. I had as you travel full time, you always kind of draw other people that do the same thing. I have a gentleman when I first started. So we had our business for 20 years, and then we'd travel for some time. Then I'd come back and work back with clients, and then save and then travel again. And then when we're starting to want to really truly full time and be digital, there was a sense of fear because I wanted to provide. I always wanted, there's a guarantee right here. It's this very small cup. And this gentleman that had traveled, he would do sort of outward bound events with young adults.
Mm-hmm.
He said, look, Victor, he's like, because you're holding on to this pint, you can't grab the gallon. Man, I've known that for years and years and years. It was so difficult. And then it's what?
It's terrifying.
It's terrifying because
I remember the same thing, setting down the pint and going, oh boy, here it's all over.
It's like you feel it in your cells. You have the taste in your mouth changes. It's terrifying. And in some ways, it's now taken almost 10 years because you'll see me some on the platform, but I've always wanted to be like propel them. I've always I say this, Robin says jokes with me. I'm like, oh, look, as long as I'm the soil that you grow from, I don't need accolades. Everyone knows, Carlos, the people that are the closest to me, they know what Vic has done. I'll say what Vic has done for the family on some level. It's propelled them. However, I think now I'm getting to the point where the world is such a nutty place, and men's role in general. Robin, since the very beginning, and I think anyone that listens to this, she's a very assertive, powerful woman. Like I'm sure your wife is too. And they honor us. Sometimes it could be, oh, well, I've heard the word emasculate. And I've gone, oh, what in your mind is masculine and what is feminine? Because both of us within each man and woman, there's divine masculine, divine feminine energy. And men will sometimes say, no. I'm like, you ever held a newborn? You ever held your children? What comes out of you when that happens? There's this beautiful balance. And so to me, a masculine man does not want to be heard over his wife. She honors him at points in lots of different ways by being who she is. Cause I always told her, like, just speak truth. I got your back.
Yep. Man, and there's nothing more beautiful than a woman who's been given the opening to be fully herself. And there's nothing so powerful, majestic as a man who has that same opportunity and grasps or makes that same opportunity to be fully himself. Like leaning into what you're saying, it's so powerful and beautiful and leads to an extraordinary relationship and an extraordinary life.
Yeah. And I think we're only really coming around to that, to the point where my voice on our platform, we sat down together for the first time really ever 10 years. Cause Gabby, my oldest daughter and Robin are the ones that came with the zenith of a blog. The only thing I can claim to fame is I came up with a name, Nomads with a Purpose, because isn't SEO that great? And you know the problems with SEO, because they're like, well, the people don't search that. But I'm like, our purpose is family and adventure and togetherness. And those are kind of different these days. Like, the fact that our kids like to hang out with us
is rare.
Is rare. We've had relatives.
We absolutely love it. Let me ask, brother, like, what are some of the things that you had to face? Carl Jung talks about, each person has to look into the abyss and look into the void. And as you kind of described some of it a little bit, but what are some of the things that you had to go in and wrestle with and allow to come up and process? I think it'd be super helpful for listeners to just be like, because we all face these inner turmoil. We all face the weaknesses, the struggle. Share maybe, if you can, if you think of like a couple of things that you had to face and overcome and the difference that made.
Yeah. Now mine are going to be somewhat unique. We use a particularly Enneagram, for example, when we help people in their understanding of their personality. Not to put them in a box, but I'm naturally an Enneagram 2, which is like this server kind of natural helper. Now that natural helper sort of was evolved as in a family where stress was high, money was shortage. Like I needed to step up, and I got some accolades and attention when I would help, right? But I also pointed to the fact, like, because that's how your kids should just receive love, right? That it's not something that they have to work for. I needed to get some, like in a family with three little kids running around, money's tight, two parents working. So I naturally adopted that personality of being a helper. The problem with that personality for me is that I started to go, well, I want affirmation. I don't want things, right? And so my highest reward initially that created challenges, I found a wonderful woman. I wanted to have a family of my own. I knew the relationships, what I wanted to generate with my family, the closeness, but I did not have a vision of all the skills that I have. I lack certain talents in like forecasting and creating a plan for said that. But guess what? I married a woman that does have that capability, right? And that created some challenges for me because then I would be like, she would go, hey, what do you think of this place? Awesome. Anything you want, without even a real feeling for that. Right. And then coming into a relationship with like expectations and an understanding. These are some things and the words and the values that we live by. I've said persistence already a few times. So clearly, like that would be one of those words that was in there, but that can also be one of those things. I had to look at that word. I'm like, ooh, I'm just going to grind something out instead of going like, is this working? Discard, moving on.
Yes.
And so, yeah,
I love that you point that out because virtues aren't always virtues. Inside this inherent strength is an inherent weakness. And something wonderful like persistence can be taken too far out of context and create problems, like exactly like you're saying.
yeah.
Great point.
And so for me, I had to start to really, and this is now the process. I observe everything as if in the third person and going back and going, do I want to be this? That's where this whole growth process has come out to be. Do I want to be this? Persist. Okay. You know what? That's not as important. What do I, I have to embrace those kinds of words. So going back to the concept is that I had to pull apart, and I'm writing a book that I call affectionately Tacos the Trails. And it's about understanding those childhood programs. Like a good boy doesn't have feelings. A good boy hides his emotions. A good boy listens at all costs. A good boy doesn't want, because if you want and I can't provide for you, that hurts me. So, hey, can I have Nikes like everyone else? Well, my mom tells a story. Oh, si tengo cuatro pesetas, if I have 4 quarters and there's four of you, how does that work? Okay, mom, 25. And so what that does is it leaves a mark of limitation. Now, again, I have a roof over my head. I never starved of a. However, I can now observe those programs and I go, oh, this is what limited my ability to grow our platform because I felt limited. I must take. The other thing is money is scarce. I remember at the peak of our business, I approached my wonderful parents, both of them at the same time, busting at the seams. 250 students a week, 50 personal training clients. And I was doing it pretty much myself because at that point we had 4 children. I would say, Mama, I need to ask you a question. Like, I don't know what to do. People want to keep coming in. I cannot physically work another hour. I'm exhausted all the time. My dad will, si te quieren pagar, if they want to pay you,
Take it.
you should take it. Instead of saying,
That's awesome. She's like, wait, people are offering you money? Yeah, you should
yeah,
take it.
instead of going to the concept of like, hey, we should probably consider this. I was too tired to consider
Yeah.
scalability, too tired to
Right.
consider this or more. If you have this type of demand, and so that kind of rooted, like you should always take what you have because you never know when it's going to run out. That gives me a limitation and limited me. It's not limiting me anymore. It's now the concept, like what message can we get? Because I know a lot of people have what I have going on in my brain. And it limits them to live the most vibrant. Let's say that, because if you say someone to someone, hey, are you happy? Yeah, I'm happy. I'm living the life exactly I want. But then when you start pulling it apart,
Exactly.
wait, that's where the rubber meets the road. And you realize like, are you living the most amazing life and connecting with that service to the universe? You have this beautiful miracle that you are, and you're going to live mundane and not feel into wonderful, amazing emotions.
Exactly. And settling and acquiescing for mere existence instead of this vibrant life that's possible.
Yes.
I love it, brother. So many great insights and great story. What habits now are serving you and your family? What's helping you show up as a husband, a father, a provider, a protector? I mean, I know you've been instructed through this journey in these 10 years of travel. What are you doing now that's really helping you thrive and helping your family thrive?
That's an absolutely wonderful question. And I think I would probably start off with a concept, because I sometimes create content about your ice bath is going to let you down. If there's no intention with it, just in doing, look, when I talk with clients and I'm helping them as a health wellness coach and a life coach, it's like, look, I got to get your head above the water. You're drowning right now. And so that first initial thing, eat this way, breathe this way, move this way, do these things it's all to just get your head above the water. But we have to have a zenith, a reason why.
Yes, that's huge.
Because for me, I mean, especially coming from where I came from, I always had the most advanced, I always had the most advanced training techniques. I've been strength training since I got my first weight set when I was in middle school. My uncle saw what was going on with me, and they're probably internalizing, they could feel, we need to help his confidence. They gave me a weight set in middle school, took off. So I've always trained. I've always eaten a specific way. I always limited my consumption. Like if I have a beer a week, that's a lot. I've always slept right, ate right, and certain things. And yet I ended up with GI issues, sleep issues. Like I've had these moments where it was like, there's a mind body interface
Yes.
that I am missing. And I always thought I could out chicken and broccoli, because those are standard bodybuilding staples. When I was at the peak of our business, I went through a massive burnout because I was working so many damn hours right about the time I was talking to my parents. And so I learned, I'm like, oh, there's something going on. And that's when I kind of hinted at like, maybe I need to share some of this with Robin. And I realized how much that was at play. And so part of that long-winded explanation is that having a deeper understanding and connection with that mind-body interface and learning how to make that connection on the daily. I have to tell you that to this moment, every hour, I must check in, because I know how powerful my programming was. I check in like, who am I? Am I being the person that's going to be successfully lead this family? Because I got so much stuff in the background that my wiring is set to always pick up. That's part of the reason I have these in my ears.
Yes, it's powerful.
Because if I hear a noise, my amygdala says there's someone coming into your house. Because I've literally had that happen. I've been in our home as a kid. People have broken in, and that wires you to double check, triple check. It was made it very uncomfortable for me to travel with the family.
Well, that's
Because they're
when
like,
you were telling your story, you're going through Europe and you're always, waiting for somebody to jump out. You put your mind into this survival mode and you're in fight or flight all the
100%,
time. Your
100%.
your body is responding to that. Your cell at a cellular level, you're getting receptors all for cortisol. I mean, you're just operating. Like it's intense. And that alone will wear you out.
Yeah.
I love what you're saying here. Is like check in with yourself hourly. Like, where's my purpose? How am I doing on my intentions? I'm doing the things, but am I doing them with intention? That is awesome.
And my nervous system essentially is naturally easily hijacked. It makes me makes me really good at combat sports. Makes me a really good wrestler. I've been practicing jiu-jitsu for 14 years. Carlos is a great training partner. Practicing out of San Diego. They've taken it to deep water. However, I always tell people this is like, you can't be in that state 24/7. You have to learn to go from fourth gear down to first gear.
Yeah.
And on some level, that body posture that you made, it's not an exaggeration, but it's happening on a subconscious level. And so the better and more advanced way I tell people if you're really worried about your health, you need to not only do all these things, but bring awareness to it. And this is the hard part sometimes for guys, because I go breathwork, meditation, and journaling, which are like, wow, Vic, please don't tell me to do that. Please don't tell me. I'm like, do you care about your health?
Exactly.
And so the breath work to me was a critical component. I did my first deep breath work dive about COVID, because I could feel it in my cells. Like there was a rattling, right? Everyone's travel blog, everyone's like capacity, the ability to travel everywhere. It was just so uncomfortable. And I had to persist behind closed doors, cover blinds. I'm going to work. I will not provide. Had a few moments where people are like, hey, I can arrest you. I'm like, you can give me $100. That's how much it costs to feed my family and take care of it. I will happily close this door. But I promise you, I was deemed unnecessary, right? As a trainer or a coach.
Right.
And so being able to be aware, the biggest tidbit that I can give, the one most powerful is, yes, you must do all these habits. They're all out there. All the biohacking is certainly valid, but bring in an awareness to, just like Carl Jung, an understanding of the self on a deeper level.
Yeah.
How you commune with that, whether it's yoga, I teach yoga, qigong, breath work, deep holotropic breath work, inner child work. Everyone's a little bit different. I have some men that struggle with anxiety so much. I'm like, all right, well, we're going to move. We're going to move limbs, because you can't sit in that. But being able to take your mind out of fight or flight is often that's what that 1 hour check-in is for me.
Beautiful.
Because I naturally will fall into that.
Man, that's so good, brother. I love this. I love it. It's just such a powerful reminder that with the list of specific activities, powerful practices, we have to intentionally connect, well, the mind and the spirit. So for me, in what I teach, the triple trifecta, the first one is fitness, but it's not just physical fitness, it's fitness in mind, body, and spirit, because they're all connected. And so we have to
100%.
be mentally fit, spiritually fit, and physically fit together in order to be a whole man, to keep the vehicle right. And that's exactly what you're illustrating so well, that when I'm doing the physical practices, I need to check in up here and in here, in the head and the heart, to make sure like this is what's happening. I'm getting full benefit from these practices.
Yeah. To add to that, the concept of, I've prided myself a lot on self-sacrifice. I can self-sacrifice, that persistence. It's right there.
Mm-hmm.
And through this travels, I realize that can only be done to a certain extent. Now, I'm someone that I will never not get a workout. I will never not do my best to eat in a specific way. I will never not take care of my aerobic conditioning. I can go, the list goes on and on based on my background. You guys can get that. However, I was damaging myself on a deeper part, because not reaching into like what matters actually to me in life and my experiences. I tell the story often that Robin has literally grabbed me by the shoulders, and like, I knew there was some problems, because she would say, hey, where do you want to go eat? I don't know, wherever you want. No, where do you want to go eat? Wherever you want. She grabbed me by the shoulders.
Were you being like really passive? Had you just kind of settled into like, I'll go wherever, I'll just go along to get along, like avoid conflict?
In some ways, yes. Now, the challenge with that, it's not a passivity. And I think this is anyone that comes from, just still going back to poverty mindset. Like, to me, it's like I was standing at a home plate and slam. Wife, 5 kids, successful business, relationship. Do I want to go to look at Fjord? Do I want to go to Amsterdam? In my mind, is like, I've already won the lottery.
Like everything.
However,
so good already. This is where there's a lot of good men who get into the same kind of trouble. I come across it, and I'm sure you do as well. It's like, man,
yeah,
things are so good. And we become, and I think maybe you've seen this too. I'd like to hear your thoughts. Like I see it like we want to be grateful, and we want to be contented maybe, but there's a fine line between content and grateful and complacent. And the complacence creates trouble, and wives pick up on it.
Yes. And Robin picks up on it. And I recently, like, this is something I'm working through. For example, in 2019, for some time, we grabbed a place, a family member had a place in Montana. And so we hid up in there. Like, okay, we're going to grab a place and just kind of hat on, see what happens. And I proceeded to try to work with my clients all digitally. It was nerve wracking because I thought, I'm not going to be able to provide the quality. Of course I did. I don't know why I didn't think. I've been doing this 30 years. I can tell people, like, I don't even need to see your legs when you squat. I can see what you're doing with your head and neck to know what your legs are doing. That's how many years I've been watching it. And so when I would do that, they all proceeded to go skiing. So they have a lot. Since 2019, they were skiing multiple times a week. I'm way behind. I've never even learned. So this weekend, for example, these are challenges this is real challenge that in the face of someone that has some of this worked out and working it out and sometimes lose it, because I want to be candid. Like, this is a process. It's a long process to do it. Don't think you can snap your fingers. I know plenty of people that snap their fingers, but that be what your soul is going to work through. Like, it's going to take a little while. So I went skiing, and they're amazing, amazing skiers. All my children and my two oldest daughters are snowboarders, and they're down the hill. I went to ski with them at Deer Valley this weekend, and here I am putting along. I got this gym to me, so I trained. I'm like, oh man, I'm gonna sink my teeth into it. I'm gonna train a little bit harder. I can instantly feel as I go down the first run, I'm like, oh, yeah, I overtrained this week. I can feel the depth of fatigue in my legs.
Oh man, you do leg day and then you hit the slopes. You pay for it.
Yeah, but that's not all that happened. I had to observe the psyche. I was like, you guys left me? How could you do that to me? You know what I've provided for you? Like, there's this whole subconscious dialogue that happens by the time to get around. Like, hey, you guys ski like 100 days a year. You couldn't hang with your old man. Like, you couldn't hang with the guy who was just this is my second season. So I'm doing great in many, but like still this dialogue, like the expectation.
Yeah.
And then I have to share that. First off, men have to share that. My expectation is for you to hang with me a little bit. And then they have a choice. Like, why would we do that? You're here for have your own expression, and we're here to have our own expression, and you should be just charged to charge. And I'm like, you're right. That's an immature thought process. And so being aware of those things, that complacency, and also going, like, part of the reason we got into MTB or into mountain biking was that Robin finally pushed me hard enough and was patient enough to go, what is it that you will be waking up about? Let's get this, let's get it, let's go get it done. Let's go. Like, well, let's start mountain biking. Done. Let's work our way towards that. And they could kind of see me now in this other shift. And so I am the opposite, right? So we have men that face these challenges and give and give and give. We have to be the light, right? A man is always giving. To me, a good, healthy man, I always say, if you know you can just keep giving, that's how you know you're doing your self-work. If you feel like I don't giving again,
yeah,
I don't know where to give, you need to go do some other work.
Exactly. Yes, yes, yes. That is huge.
It is so huge and so hard. I tell men, and I just had words with a gentleman that I've been working with that has some significant health issues. And he's saying, I think I need to stop. Things are tight. And, this is too hard. And I'm like, look, you tell me you prioritize your family. You are cutting decades out of your life by your current health system. Is that caring for your family? And it comes down heavy. And then the waterworks come. And like, I just don't know why I can't make myself do this. I'm like, because your ego wants to protect you and legitimize your suffering.
Yep. Wow.
And I have a lot of that I work with. I share that. They go, look, I know where you're at. It hurts. I have to lean you into the hardest part, not your strengths, to lean you into the hardest part. So if that means, it's like, you just want to make me cry, Vic.
If crying works, buddy, you got to get those tears out.
Listen, I always tell people this, and one of the most powerful, I'm going to share with you how I can identify. I'm straight up with the guys and like, look, this is how we do it. You want to get down deep down the rabbit hole and figure out if you got to deal with some emotional repression? Sit in a comfortable place. No distractions. Breathe 4 seconds in, 4 seconds out. Connect with that breath in your body, like, oh, tension here, tension there. Connect for a few minutes, like, whew, okay. Connect first, then move into your heart. Not only just into your physical heart and your emotional heart, your spiritual heart. And I want you to sit in that darn place until you can elicit love, gratitude, and joy. And at first, when I guide them, they have a hard time. If I just say those words, you and I both know that you do this work. So it doesn't always happen. And then I go, remember your wedding. And then I say, okay, now remember the first time you've held your kids. And then Stephen's just talking about it. Because I can tap into that heart space and go, all right. Yeah, now I'm open. Now I'm ready to do work. Now that has nothing to do with feeling like less of a man. As a matter of fact, you'll feel like more of one ready.
More of
Now
them.
you've created bandwidth
Absolutely.
because you've let go and connected with a deeper part, right? The mask that we wear in a society, they tell you never to feel that. Well, I can tell you where those guys are. I have 30 years of experience.
Yep. We have to feel more. Men have to feel more and deliberately do what you're talking about there to spend time daily, I would say, maybe multiple times a day, getting into those places where we allow ourselves to feel, where we remind ourselves that we are feeling beings and that we tap it. That's, man, I love to teach that that's the power plant. Those feelings, that's the power plant. And so many good men are not connected to their power. And so they feel empty and they feel like they're dragging, they feel purposeless. Like, get into those feelings and feel them and let those feelings power you up, charge you so you have more to give.
Yeah, I agree with that statement. And the other thing, the concept that I really I think is valuable is if we're talking about leadership and leading men, we know certain personality types. Hey, I want you to go eat that dirt. I want you to go do 100 burpees, and I want you to go crush your day. God, check. But we have a whole slew and a whole generation of men, sometimes say leading from the back, where you're just pulling up people, right? Like pulling up that bottom third that like we can have an amazing, powerful society if only we take the ones that are a little bit and be like, hey, I know you're hurting. This is why you're not alone. You're not different. I can help you. Let's deal with this. There's a path for you. I love David. I do. Like what his messages are powerful. But there's a whole slew of guys that'll just look at that and be like, that's cool for him. I got real stuff. And if you read his backstory, he's got some stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And I cried my way through that book too. It's extremely powerful to have these alphas that lead the way and can do that, lead the way. However, I think if we just look at each individual and realize that you're no different, you have stuff. Every one of us has stuff, and we can be the best possible version of ourselves. And it can be amazing, and you can live an amazing existence, whether that's travel. Because people do that all the time with Rob and I, and probably with you and your wife. Like, oh, that's good for you. I mean, we have people, you read my last name. They go, oh, that's white privilege.
Yeah, like, that's really funny.
That's really funny. I'm like,
I
yeah,
do the
born,
same thing because I was like, my parents divorced early. Stepdads came and went. I left home at 16. Like, I was living in bad neighborhoods. Like wondering, literally, seriously wondering how I could get 25 cents to buy another package of ramen noodles, right? And they throw the white privilege thing, not everyone can have the life you have, and you were born that way. I'm like, oh, no, you don't.
you don't even
No, you
know.
don't. Wow.
No, you don't. Yeah. I mean, and those things leave a mark. And it looks like you've been able to face some of those coming from that. It can do one of two things, right? It can empower you. I'm never going to be that. But it can also limit you a little bit into highlight your capacity, your full,
Mhm.
right? Because I know I'm like, shit, I worked for a moving company for 6 months. I actually taught the guys, I'm like, this is how we get more tips. You want me to tell you? It's like, yeah. Like when you move a piece of furniture, make a comment, start a conversation with the owner. If we can, they think we're all hoodlums moving their stuff into here and we're going to steal something. If you can get them to gain trust, make a comment about that. That's a wonderful photo or a wonderful picture. All of a sudden it drops that intensity and you can kind of draw yourself in.
It's so, man, it's so good. I loved hearing this. Thanks for sharing your stories and your practices, the things you coach, because you and I both had to process so many things. And I think all men do. We have to take whatever the background, whatever the mindset, whatever's going on, we have to take those things and process them. And I know for me, until they were processed, I couldn't move forward and I couldn't access my power. And the wounds, especially, if the wound is never healed, it doesn't matter where you go or what you do, you will still bleed inside. And it will always be sensitive. Somebody will touch the wound. And
Yeah.
probably your wife and kids. And it just, it keeps going. You're like, man, until that gets healed and it's no longer painful to touch, you can't be the man that you know you're capable of being.
So true.
You're spot on, brother. We've got to do the inner work to heal, to process, to get through those things so we can get the bandwidth to then lean in and be formidable husbands and fathers.
Yeah, I always tell guys this: anger is a clue. An emotional need not net. There's something deeper. We shift to anger because it feels good. Ups your T, gets you in fight or flight. But you're like, if you can get to the point where you've done enough practice to observe the stuff, like, gosh, I'm kind of a jerk right now. Why am I being a jerk? Scratch. Okay, well, I worked really hard today. I really expect to like things to be easy. Wait, why do I want things to be easy?
Exactly.
And then all of a sudden we can go down that. And sometimes that creates the work that you do. You're like, you want to push to that level where you're like, hey, are you mad right now? Yeah. Why are you talking to me like that? Why are you asking me these difficult questions? I'm like, well, if you're happy with where you're at, you can proceed. If you're not,
If you have the results you want, we're good. But if you
we say
don't,
that. And that's really the work that I'm beginning to do, as I'm putting the slideshow for how poverty mindset impacted on our YouTube channel, how my poverty mindset impacted and almost created a divorce through my full-time travel. But I wouldn't take any of it back because the person I am today
had to go through that.
is completely different. It had to suffer. It had to suffer so I could share the story, even in this moment with you, with full vulnerability. Like, look, I might not have this all figured out, but I know this. I am now gaining dominion. It's not a program. It's not a floppy disk that's inserting. You're going react this way, defend this way, attack this way, exist this way. It's being taken out and going, I do not want to be that.
Exactly. Extracting that. Yeah, that's beautiful. Give us one thing, man, that you and your wife have done or are doing that kind of keep the magic in the marriage. What's something you guys have that keeps the spark and the friendship and the romance alive?
I think when we have this, we do some marriage, we work with families like I expressed a little bit before. And one of the big things that people do, and what I think we're doing, and even today is, especially on our sort of anniversary, is what I call contract negotiation. You sign with the team and you come in going like, all right, this is our contract. I will give you everything I got in exchange for me to be your husband. And that contract, like with a professional team, just like Tom Brady going to the Bucks. Now we renegotiate. So what we generally do is more often go. An example of this is like we take a high level of pride in what goes into our bodies, and so we can't go out. We don't go out to eat very often. Well, that's usually a very defined, easy way for parents to go out and date each other. Because one of the parts of that is like never stop dating each other. However, what that looks like changes, and so renegotiating on the monthly, believe it or not, like, hey, how'd we do this week? Did I connect with you deeply? Did you feel heard? I mean, Greg, you've been with your wife. Like, I don't know. You're probably comparable being with your family as many hours in the day as we men go. Man, I don't know how you do that.
I love it.
And absolutely love it. Absolutely love it. But a lot of people, again, the bandwidth issue is going like, what is the expectation? And so we knew early on that first we couldn't hide the dialogues that we wanted to have. They were just we live in small 200 square feet. We're going to have difficult dialogues. And to me, I was like, at first I was like, no, kids shouldn't see that. I saw that all the time. I saw yelling and screaming and slamming of doors and running away and mom's crying. I'm like, I don't want to do that. And she's like, wait, it's like difficult dialogues doesn't necessarily mean that. And so
Yeah,
negotiating those
exactly.
concepts. And so how we keep the passion alive is a redefinition on what that is that the other person needs. Like Robin always wants to feel heard. Well, in some cases, like I've had dialogues with her on long drives. I'm like, hey, we just spoke for 6 hours. Did you feel heard? No. Holy smoke, I'm doing something wrong.
Exactly. And how much trouble we get ourselves in if we assume without asking, man, we just talked for 6 hours. She feels heard.
Yes.
No, that's where we get into trouble right there.
And so expectations, I think how I keep excitement, joy, and we do have our challenges. We still have it. We're building this. We made sometimes error, maybe benefit, of spreading wide, right? Isabel has her own content creation. Gabby has her own content creation. We have nomads. I have my coaching platform, and that's broad. And so in some challenges, we were like, oh, if we had unified this, well, we can't go back. If we had unified this, we had created that voice. That creates some challenges. But to point to the idea of having a unified, like, to me, what is amazing, what's hot, working side by side by my wife. Like every time I talk about a vision of our future and connecting with that, that is a massive, and we're in alignment on a good portion. I mean, she doesn't care if I bench press 350 again. What the heck does she care? She just wants a six pack.
Exactly.
So we don't have to align on everything, but a good portion, like, hey, I want to stand on stage with you and I want to have an elaborate presentation that involves our children where they kind of weave in and go, now let me tell you what I saw from dad right now. And people laugh and they can kind of express like the journey so that people not only laugh, but cry and go, wow, that was hard. You did it your way kind of concept. And so expectations, also a vision for the future that's aligned. Now that's for us, right? Like that is a massive, massive aphrodisiac to living a life in alignment where you get up and go, even if it's a little high five, let's go.
100%.
That, and I think that resonates with you.
Yeah, absolutely. We live that.
Yeah.
We've been doing that for really, I mean, in small ways since the beginning, but in major ways for the last 18 years, chasing dreams with alignment. And again, we're very different people and very different big dreams, but we find that overlapping alignment for our family dream and vision. So the alignment and the vision, and then constantly checking in with expectations. It's
Yeah.
absolutely
Isn't that,
solid,
it
brother,
doesn't sound sexy,
but it works.
but it
And it is
works. And it,
sexy because it works, man.
because, when she gets home from skiing right now, they're out skiing at Snowbird. And so they'll come down and I'm like, I know we're going to go get a climb together. I know now I've scripted, like, these are the dialogues I want to have because I know not only does she want, that's what she wants, but then she knows Vic will want to talk about his interview
Mhm.
and what he got excited about.
Yeah.
And she knows that she needs to ask me that.
Right.
And so those expectations are like, I had to share those, but a lot of guys don't even know what their expectations are. They'll say things like, I just want peace. Damn, brother. I don't know if that's going to work. Peace can be an aloofness. My aloofness was another clue. Like that was a trauma response. Gabor Mate talks about that. I read Gabor Mate's The Myth of Normal, and I realized that my brain, when Robin and I would get in an escalated conversation with friction, I would be like, "Oh my God, I did not hear you the last 5 minutes." And I love this person and I want to pay attention, but for some reason my brain goes so it just zones out as a defense mechanism for probably how I grew up. When you
Mhm.
hear that friction, there's no other way. You can't escape physically, but you can escape the mind.
Exactly.
And so I only share all of these little things as they come up because I know a lot of the men that I struggle with, like they're just zone out. And like, it's not an accident, guys. If you need to walk, I will generally, when we have a heated conversation, I will walk and pace to stay focused so that my brain, I had to train myself to do that. I mean, that's a little,
Yeah, it's beautiful.
yeah.
Yeah, brother. So many great insights, man. This is fantastic. Thank you so much for sharing this. How can men connect with you and find you and what you guys are doing?
Well, you can reach us across all platforms at Nomads with a Purpose to see our travel and movement. But if you're looking for a holistic approach to health, you can find me on Coach Victor Robledo on Instagram and across all other places. If you're looking and you're feeling like you just need a specific, I always take this, and everyone needs a certain person. They click and vibe. So I used to feel like I would keep secrets and I'm like, oh no, I don't want to shift. And the reality is it takes all types, yourself, myself. The more of us that there are saying the same things, one person's not going to resonate with you. I have people that, like, I have three people that are from my neck of the woods. It's clear that because of our backstory, our neighborhood, we share stories. Oh, yeah, do you remember that school? Yeah, I would run to that school. I'd always get jumped there, and like, and then because of that helps them. Like, okay, he did that. And so I think the more of us that are sharing these messages, the more powerful we get, and all different types of messages. Obviously, the work that you do, you have a massive impact on me. What you do and what your family does is lead me to, like, I can say hard things. I can speak truth, and people will still, because in the end, that the little boy who's like, just go, just lay low and you can glide by, you'll be safe. But wait, safe is not good. Safe leaves you just surviving. What kind of lifestyle?
Exactly. Wow. I love it, brother. Fantastic. Sir, thank you. Thank you for
Oh, thank you.
sharing your message. Thank you for being the man you're being for your family, but for others, for serving and caring and making a difference. I'm right with you, sir. We need more men leading from the front, starting first and foremost with their marriages, their families, their children, and then reaching out to communities. And man, we can change the world by changing ourselves and changing our families and then changing our communities.